thank you for joining me today. I just appreciate so much. I know you're more than busy right now, right?
Yeah, I actually I take a lot of time off now, so no, I'm not that busy.
I see. Well, I'm getting to that point. At some point, I'll be able to retire like you have.
Yeah.
Well, so let's get people up to speed. And by the way, folks, we are going to let you ask some questions. I'm going to open up the question box here on my computer so I can actually see what you might be typing in there. Because hey, think about it. You have the opportunity to ask somebody who's actually been through the training. She's done the due diligence that hopefully you're doing right now on our business to see if it's for you. And of course, if it is, you'll be coming to the training just like she did. Tierney, tell us about that. How long ago was that?
So my 10-year anniversary will be on, I think we just decided September 8th it was,
So
which
that's
I can
like
hardly believe.
Yeah, that'll be Saturday. Okay, so we want to celebrate that
Yeah.
with you. And by the way, I just wanted to let you know, Tierney, that for reaching your 10th year with ABS as an independent business owner, I just wanted to thank you by giving you a brand new latest iPad. So that'll be on its way to you tomorrow.
Oh, that's very sweet of you. Thank you.
Well, I'm sure you've got one or two around, but hey, who can't use an extra iPad, right? Especially with our business, because your doctors use the iPad if they're using our electronic medical record system.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm going to show a picture now, since we're talking about when you actually graduated. I'm glad you're on just a phone call right now. You're not on a computer, right? You can't see what I'm showing.
I can't.
Okay, well, that's because I'm showing the picture of you and I standing there at the front of the class as you graduated there back in 2008. So
Wow.
that's me. I
Wow.
look like I'm extra wide. I've lost some weight since then. I'm wearing, for some reason, it looks like I'm wearing a mafia outfit. It's a black shirt and black tie, a black coat, and a gold tie. So
Nice.
anyway, uh, tell us about that. I think people on the webinar who are looking into our business kind of want to know about that week of training. Can you give us a feel for that and what you thought about it even back then? Of course, it's evolved. It's a little different now, but what do you think about the training?
Yeah, so I think everybody, for the most part, when you're going into training, probably feels very similar, and that is you feel completely, insecure about what you're stepping into. Most of us had no knowledge of billing or coding at that point in time, and really nothing. I didn't know anything about the billing industry whatsoever. So, it's a little nerve-wracking going into it because you have all these questions that you feel like you need answers to, and that's really the purpose of training. And I can honestly say, once I went through training, I left feeling completely confident that I could go home and start building my business. So, for those of you that are feeling fear, hang in there, because once you get to training, that's the whole purpose of it. You're going to leave and you're going to be ready to hit the ground running.
Yeah, I think the biggest fear. I made the serious mistake of not turning off my phone. I think the biggest fear most people have, don't you, is not just the technical aspects of the doing the medical billing, because it's not brain surgery, right? It's fairly straightforward. I think it's in figuring out how to get clients. So would you agree with that? It's like what do I do to get my business started?
Yeah, and I mean, obviously our clients are physicians, and just speaking for myself, I only had gone to, I think, a year and a half of junior college, and ended up dropping out. I went to work for a law firm, and so I didn't have a college education whatsoever, so it was very intimidating, or the thought was very intimidating, that my clients were going to be these physicians that had been in school for 10 years, and I was going to have to try to carry on a conversation with them about their billing, and that's a little intimidating, but again, that's what training's for. Once you get in there, you guys will get the language and the vocabulary and everything that you need to be able to take the steps forward that you can take with confidence, And that's just not something that you need to be concerned with. I mean, like I said, if I can do it with no college education whatsoever, then anyone can do it.
Hey, you're a college dropout, along with me, Bill
Right on.
Gates, Mark Zuckerberg, and others.
There you go.
Yeah, some people need that piece of paper, some people don't. All right, so
Sure.
let's bring people up to speed. Talking about getting your business started, I want to cover the details of how you did that at first, but just bring them all the way 10 years later here to today and give us a feel for where you're at in your business.
Oh, so 10 years later, so we are processing claims for approximately, uh, if I sound like I don't know the number, I don't, because there's constantly new providers that we're adding. But I think the count right now is 87. I have 12
Oh,
full-time employees, and I would say probably last year, I made the decision that I kind of had this light bulb moment where I went, you know what? I don't do the day in and day out processing. That's what my staff is for. And so I really actually cut back on my time at the office. I do have an office that we all go to every day. So I know some people work out of their homes, and I did start that way, but I do have an office now. But yeah, I mean, it's just it's about a year ago. Like I said, it took a turn for me, and I would say honestly, I work at I don't know, maybe like 5 hours a week. If you look at my
wow.
Facebook, you'll see that I do a lot of traveling. I was in London and France in April. I just got back from Hawaii. Then my family and I went to Disneyland the weekend after that. I'm leaving this Thursday to go to Idaho. So, I mean, I have an incredible staff. Of course, you need that in order to, do what I do. But, that's part of the process. And those aren't things that you have to worry about right away. That will all evolve. But 10 years later, yes, I have an amazing business. I feel incredibly blessed. And I honestly could have never imagined that it would be what it is today.
You're more retired than I am, Tierney. I probably put in as many hours as most of my staff, although I do work out of my home most of the time. Like right now, I'm doing this webinar from my home. We have an office, as you know, about 15 minutes away from here, but that's the great part about this kind of business. With the technology that we have, you literally can work from anywhere in the world. I guess when you're traveling, you somehow do you tap in to if you have an internet connection, which is just about anywhere nowadays, you tap in and touch base.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if I need to, I have an office manager, but if there's an issue that I need to address, obviously, like you just said, because it's a web-based system, you can get on, from anywhere and look at what's going on with a claim or an issue or, whatever needs to be addressed. So yeah, I mean,
Sure.
that gives you a ton of flexibility and freedom that you're not just bound to sitting at a desk from, 9 to 5 all day.
Right. In fact, Tierney, I don't know if you remember this or not, but we had a couple that actually ran this business out of an RV. I mean, they literally drove around the country. They had a satellite on top at the time. I don't know how you'd get Wi-Fi without that, but anyway, that's what they did. And yeah, they had a printer in there, and the lady was in the back actually doing all the processing. The husband was just driving around. They'd stop every once in a while, see the United States while they ran their business out of that RV. So, and I've heard of other licensees who've said that they go to Hawaii and they sit on the beach, and as long as you're close to a Wi-Fi connection at your hotel, you can always connect and run the business.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think for me, and I've kind of said this in the past, and it's still true for me, which is why I only work about 5 hours or so a week. For me, time's always been it most important to me. I mean, yes, I feel blessed to have the money, and that's obviously nice. Um, but flexibility for me was huge. I'm very close to my kids, who are quickly becoming adults. But we're a sports family, and every single one of them plays sports, if not multiple. So it's important to me, on any given weekend we're at a tournament or we're at a game or whatever, and I wanted something that would allow me the opportunity to not miss out on anything that they were doing. And, that's been one thing that this has offered, and that's just a huge amount of flexibility that if I wanted to go see their games or I wanted to go to a school event or do something with them, I could do it. And if I had to stay up later in the beginning to make sure things were done, then, that's a sacrifice I made for that. So, but there's not a lot of industries that give you that flexibility.
No, there's not a lot of businesses that you can start that don't just tie you down like that. Like you said, you go into an office, but you don't have to. I'm assuming if you wanted to, you could connect and do things with video conferencing and that kind of thing. In fact, Tierni, I've got the picture that I took. Remember when I came out and visited you there in Yuba City? Uh, and you were in that little office that you were renting there. I think you had 2 employees at the time, and I've got a picture of you standing outside that at the time. You've moved
Oh
into
yeah,
another building, right?
yeah. Yep. I bought a building actually, but yes, we are in a new location now. It's 6,000 square feet. We obtained the downstairs, and then there's an upstairs that is just open and ready for us to expand into that space when we're ready.
Oh, that's fantastic. I even have a picture of you standing with looks like 3 other ladies. I don't know at what time that was, but and then I have the picture of you, of course, with your whole staff there. I guess of 12. Uh, and I think somewhere here I have a picture of you uh, in a Mexican hat, uh, standing on the golf course. Can you tell us about that? Huh?
Mexican. Oh, I'm like, what? Mexican hat. Okay, so that is
You
that was
forgot you sent
for
this picture to me, didn't you?
um so that actually is for it's called it's a local fundraiser that our hospital does, and that's actually how I got my foot in the door to one of my first clients, which was I sponsored a spot and played in the golf tournament because I knew docs were going to be there, and ended up meeting them, and was able to get my foot in the door with one of the admin, and the doors just kind of opened from there, and was able to get a couple of clients from that. So yeah, anything you can participate in where physicians are going to be, you want to do it.
Yes, I'm assuming that maybe this picture has, let's see, 5 other people in the picture. What were some of those, you think, doctors, physicians?
Yeah, every year I golf, I'll sponsor a couple of my clients. So yes, I'm not looking at the picture, but yes, I'm sure there are.
People wonder, of course, how do you build a medical billing, business? And we tell them it's not what you think. You're not just going door to door and making calls on the phone and things like that. Can you tell us about how you did get your first client? I think you told me this story back when I came out there and visited with you. Something about a mail out of some kind, wasn't it?
Yeah, we got our first client. I say we because at the time I came to training, my best friend went with me. She left the business about 6 months later, but at the time she was with me, and it was important to me because of the type of community that we lived in. It's very small. Everybody kind of knows everybody. It's that type of picture, if you will. And my mom was actually a midwife in this community, and it was really important for me to make sure that we got our name out. So we did go around introducing ourselves, networking, and whatnot. And then we decided at one point that we were going to go ahead and put on a seminar, and that's actually where we got our very first client. I mean, my gosh, it's been 10 years, but I can't remember what the topic was at the time, but we, researched whatever topic was going around. For some reason, I want to say it was a rack audit, something like that.
Yes, I
And
think that's right. You gave me a
yeah,
postcard or something that you had printed and
yeah,
sent.
yeah. So we researched the topic. We actually did two. We did one on, I think, the rack audit, and then we did one on like office operations, something like that. Of course, tying it into medical billing. Ended up marketing the seminar, and I really wanted it to be nice and make a good impression. We ended up doing a luncheon and offered everybody lunch. I, because we live in a small community, we only had about, I think, 100 to 150 postcards that went out. And then we got a huge return on it. We ended up getting, I want to say 25 people showed up. A lot of those were office managers, but we had a handful of docs there. And from that seminar, we actually ended up signing 2 docs, not just one. We signed one. He was with us a year, and then his wife, a month, and then his wife ended up signing a month later. So we got 2 clients from that seminar, but that's how we got our first docs. Patrick?
I'm sorry, I had to cough, so I muted
I can
myself.
hear you now. Can you
Yeah.
hear me?
So what I was saying was, I guess that investment in those postcards and the lunch was a good ROI, return on your investment there, with 2 doctors signed up.
Well, yeah, and what's so funny, and I mean, a lot of people I'm sure will experience this, but I want to say I spent somewhere around $700, which honestly at the time seemed like so much money. But
Yeah.
those 2 physicians that I got from that seminar ended up staying with me for 5 years before they actually left the area and ended up doing something different, each of them, believe it or not. So it was a great return.
Yeah. Yeah, because the license fee that we charge, of course, now, $26,990, that was a lot less, I think, 10 years ago, wasn't it? We've gone up, of course, over the years as we added different, new services that you can offer to doctors. So
Sure.
that's fantastic. Now, by the way, that's one of the things that we teach still, of course, is how to do those seminars, or what we call lunch and learns. And we have all the PowerPoints already designed for those, and a lot more advanced materials than what you had back then 10 years ago. So I'm sorry you had to develop those postcards on your own. Now we have those already.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, so we teach, about a dozen ways to get clients. Now, I do have some questions coming in, folks. This is your opportunity to ask questions live on this webinar to Tierni. So I'm going to ask them as they're coming in here. And if I don't get to all of them, of course, we'll try to answer those, through email to each of you, because we have a record of what you're typing in there. But I had to bring this one up, Tierni. I showed the picture of you when you were graduated, and then of course the one that I have here today of you. And this lady Nada says, you both look good in this picture, but you both looked good 10 years ago, but much better today. Is that the effect of ABS?
That's
Yes.
funny.
Yes, it takes all the stress away, and all your wrinkles go away, and your gray hair.
That's right.
Well,
That's right.
not mine. All right, so Antoinette said, yes, walk us through the steps. I think she's talking about the business, but she also says later here, how long did you work alone before you actually hired somebody?
Not very long.
Yeah.
I didn't
Oh,
want
well, you
to
were.
do the work. Yeah, I knew early on that it's funny because I had a very short-term goal of only getting a handful of docs, but even with that, I didn't want to work the business. I didn't want to do the day in and day out processing of the claims. That wasn't a desire that I personally had. If you have that desire, then you are more than welcome to do that. But for me, I didn't want to do that, and that's the beauty of this business. You can structure it any way you want. So I started, let's see, I went to training in September. It took me 6 months to get my first client. Now that was working at probably part-time marketing, I would say. The holidays hit and we were trying to plan the seminar, and so it was very part-time marketing. So at 6 months, I got my first client. A month later, I got my second one, and a month after that, I hired my first employee.
Wow, that's fantastic. Well, that's something that people ask about. Well, how long is it going to take me to get my first client? But that really all depends on, how much time you have available, right? Like you said, you were just working at part-time. And people have other things going on in their lives, of course, but the nice thing about this business is you can build it as slow or as fast as you want to. Uh, so a part of her question was also, how many clients did you have? In other words, before you hired the other person, you only had a couple or three then, right?
I had two when I hired my first
Two.
employee.
Yeah. So you didn't want to do that billing at all, did you?
No, I didn't. No, I did not.
All right. Shirley says, Tierney, is the software good and was it hard to learn?
Yes, it's good, and no, it's not hard to learn at all.
We might have
It's
been on a different, I think we were on a different platform back then, didn't we? We didn't have the cloud-based system, did we? Or
we
was it?
started with no, we had a different platform back then.
Yeah. But it was cloud-based, I guess, wasn't it, at the
Yeah,
time?
yeah,
Yeah.
yep,
Yeah.
very
I don't,
similar.
I don't, yeah, I think it's been a long time since we had, a server-based that comes on a, DVD or CD. Okay, let's see. So Jay says, how many clients do you have now? We mentioned that earlier, Jay. You may not have been on at that time. It was 87. Is that right? 87 providers.
Yeah.
And how long did it take to accumulate your first 10 clients? That's kind of hard to think back in 10 years ago.
Yeah, I don't know that I can remember that, but I mean, I had my first 10, I would say 2 years.
Okay. All right. So Nada says, how did you handle the question of what experience do you have, when you're brand new and you're trying to land your first client? Because you didn't have any experience at all at the time, did you?
Yeah, no, I had none. So you guys will learn this in training. And again, I went 10 years ago, so I'm sure, the training is going to be a little bit different from what I went through. But at the time, if my memory serves me right, I want to say that um, you would lean or rest on I'm a part of a nationwide network. Patrick, is that still the
Exactly.
route you guys are going?
That's right. We teach them exactly what we taught you, and that's to say and position yourself as, I just opened a local office, but I'm a part of a nationwide network of certified medical revenue managers. In fact, we're the nation's largest network, and so you can really build on that, being a part of something that's much larger. It's kind of like opening a Century 21 office. You've never sold a home, but you're a part of a big company that has, and so that's how we teach them to position it. Plus, as you know, Tierni, we now have books that are written by a doctor that we have associated with, Dr. Vicki Rackner. I've co-authored some of those books. Now people can put their name right on the front cover of the book and their contact information on the inside. So we build great credibility by showing that you've partnered with a doctor. By the way, Antonio says, do you have doctors nationwide? Are you able to sell these services remotely, in other words?
Yeah, you can do it nationwide. I chose, for me, I live in California, and that's kind of my target and my focus area. But absolutely, if I want a client in New York, no problem.
Yeah, we have licensees all the time that tell us, well, I signed up a doctor here locally, but he knew a doctor friend out in another state. And so I just contacted that doctor. He contacted them, introduced us. And at that point, it's just a matter of sending paperwork back and forth, and everything can be done again technologically, remotely, because, well, it's a cloud-based system. So it's available to anybody that's got an internet connection. All right, let's see. Sonia says, hi, Tierney, great accomplishment, and thanks for taking the time to share your experience. When you started, how many bills did you process a week? You may not have processed any of them. You might have hired somebody to do it, but how many? Let's, yeah, talk in general terms about how many or how long it takes to process a claim, and how many maybe one person could do in a day or in a week.
So I would say, I mean, on average, a claim shouldn't take you any longer than about a minute, if that.
Yeah.
So I can't do the math real quick, but however much time you have.
Well, yeah, and
You
even
can
even
you
with,
can process a lot,
oh yeah, in a
and
day's time you can process
that's
hundreds of
probably,
those.
yeah, that's probably. I mean, I said a minute, but I mean, once you understand, assessing a claim and what you need to look at and, all that good stuff, I mean, I would say a minute, but there's some claims that only take literally 20, 30 seconds. I mean, some are super fast. So it really depends on the specialty. Your primary care claims, there's not as much reviewing that needs to be done as say, a neurologist. So it just kind of depends on the specialty, but on average, I would say 30 seconds to a minute. So processing a claim super quick.
Yeah. Here's an interesting question I've never seen on one of these interviews. It has to do with, she's saying, Antoinette says, I'm looking for a mentor. Would you be willing to take on that responsibility? Um, Antoinette, let me just say this. We do have licensee coaches, and Tierni, I may be mistaken, but I think you've done some of that for us with other licensees. And so the answer is yes, we do have people who run their own business who are willing, to do some coaching, and ABS pays for that. You don't. We actually pay and compensate that person for, taking time to do that. They'll take you by the hand and show you how to, build a business if that's what you need. Um, so Antonio says, how many visits to the doctor until you can, get the contract or close the deal? It depends, doesn't it? I guess.
Yeah, I think that's kind of a general question. I think it really depends on the provider and their comfort level with you. I would say the longer you do it, your closing ratio will get smaller and smaller, or bigger and bigger, I should say. You'll be able to close more deals in a quicker amount of time. But yeah, it depends, and it depends on how efficient you are when you go in and you do your practice analysis, because you guys are going to have to go in and, just like a doctor assesses a patient, you're going to have to assess their practice. So, you can figure out kind of where their weak areas are so you can step in and help them.
Right. And what she's talking about, folks, is we've developed what we call a practice analysis. It's about 4 pages now of questions that you should ask the doctor. We go over that very carefully in the training, teaching you exactly why we ask the questions, what answers you should expect, and then how to create your proposal for the doctor from those answered questions. Now, Tierney, I've actually had licensees tell me that they've gone out, and one lady said she was just calling on doctors, which we don't teach people to go door to door, but this is what she did. She went in a building that has all these medical offices. She started at the top floor and she just went down, leaving a brochure and grabbing their business card and so forth, and walked into a therapist, I think a therapist of some kind, and they had just decided that they wanted to outsource their billing. I mean, the timing was just right, so that didn't take much at all. But I've had other licensees tell me that they called on a doctor, and then they put them on our automatic follow-up system that you know about, of course, AutoCard. And then 6 months later, the doctor calls up and says, "Yeah, hey, we've been getting these cards from you, and we've been thinking about it, and you're the only one that's kind of kept in contact with us. So can you come talk to us?" So it happens.
Yeah, it absolutely happens. And, when you do the math on how many providers are in the United States and how many of them are potentially unhappy with their billing, situation, there's a lot of opportunity there.
Oh, yeah, they're everywhere. Um, Here's a good question from Margaret. She says, my greatest concern is not submitting claims. It's the codes that come with the claims and the rejections on the remittance advice. How hard has it been understanding and resolving the code issues?
So, I mean, this is like anything as you guys have your business and you go through the life of your business, you'll become more educated. But when you first start out, like Patrick said, the providers are giving you their codes. So if there's a rejection or a denial situation, you just simply can go back to them and sit down and discuss with them. Hey, listen, you gave me this code and I got this denial for and you have that conversation with them. So I know it seems really scary right now, but again, as you guys go through training and that topic will be discussed and how you manage all that, it won't seem as like a big obstacle.
Yeah, the codes are a big fear of a lot of people because they've seen things on the internet about, oh, you got to go to, coding, you got to become a certified medical coder, take a course at a college or something. And what they don't realize is that would be true if you wanted to work for a doctor in a doctor's office and be their coder. But folks, our system has the codes built in. And if the doctor is on our electronic medical record system, all the codes are right there in front of the doctor that they select and push a button on their iPad, and the codes are put in for you. So you don't have to know them. All the, what are there now? 70,000 codes or some ridiculous big number now.
Yeah, I was just going to say the providers don't even have all the codes memorized because there's so many. So,
Right.
but like Patrick just said, when they're, doing an office visit with a patient, they're going to be selecting their diagnosis and their procedural codes right there while they're doing the visit. So on the back end, when you're actually getting the information, you're essentially getting a claim that's already filled out.
Right. It's in the system, and you're just the processor behind the scenes. You're going to take what the doctor and the office staff have put into the system, and you're going to process that, and then of course follow up on it if it's not paid.
Correct.
Let's see. Peggy says, I understand that a doctor has many patients, but specifically, how are you paid?
So I am paid the way my business is structured, and I'm going to assume all the other licensees are very similar to this. When we submit a claim to the insurance company and that insurance company renders a payment, that payment goes to the physician. However, we receive an electronic remittance advice like an EOB. You guys probably get those from your insurance companies. And we post that money into the system. And then at the end of the month, I generate a report that shows how much money we actually collected for the provider. And then I bill them a percentage of the money we collected. So that's how I'm paid.
Right. It's a percentage of what's actually collected for the doctor. And of course, our system keeps that information in it. And if you want to give access to the doctor, they could actually go online anytime they wanted to and see that, couldn't they, Tierni? We don't hide anything from them. It's completely transparent.
Yeah,
So
that's actually one of the things I always tell my clients is when you have nothing to hide, you can see everything in this system. So, there's nothing we could hide even if we tried, which is a huge blessing for them because physicians are fearful about people touching their money as anyone would be.
yeah, that's right. There was another question here from Antoinette about that too. How did you get the money to pay your staff? Well, you get it from the money you collect that you bill the doctor. Yeah, so the percentage. So let's say you're collecting for this one doctor, I don't know, $100,000 a month, and you're charging the doctor a percentage. Sometimes it's 5 to 8%. Let's say it's 6%. Then you're billing $6,000 a month for that doctor, and that's what you pay your staff from. And that is one of the questions here. I wanted to make sure I tied this in. Jay says, what would you say that your fee, your percentage per client averages, taking all of your clients into account?
I would say 6.
6, yeah. We found that's a pretty standard number out there. I don't know why, but it depends on the type of doctor sometime, the volume of claims, and even the part of the country that you're in. But yeah, 6% is a good round number that's out there.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
I've done things. Sorry, Pat. Were you gonna read the question, or you want me to respond with this?
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say that with my business, what I chose to do is I chose to do packages. And so what I'll do is, because some providers don't need all the services that maybe another provider will. So I'll put together different packages and say, well, this package is 6%. If they want you to do less, it's less work for me, so I charge them less. So I'll do a package for 6%, call it a platinum package, and then a package for 5, and that's my gold, and then however you want to structure it. But I don't. When I first started, I was in this mindset that I had to have a certain percentage, and it always had to be that way. It's okay; it can fluctuate.
Yeah. Yeah, it's all very specific to that particular doctor. Once you've done the practice analysis and you come back with a proposal and what we call the revenue report that you can generate, you can plug in, the percentage that you think would be right for that particular doctor. And folks, we go into that in detail in the live training workshops that we do. And we also have our support staff. Remember, you have lifetime support with ABS. And so we will always guide you and help you step by step with what your pricing ought to be, maybe for a particular practice. It's always up to you. Of course, it's your business. We don't have any decision making in that, but we can certainly give you our 25 years experience in that. So Peggy, I hope that answered your question too. She says, what's an average percentage? It's probably 6%. You can use that as a good number. Let's see, I'm going to try to focus in on a few questions since you have just a few minutes left. Tierni, I know you had to leave here pretty quick, but that are aimed directly at you. Any other questions, folks, that you want to ask that are not directed at Tierni, then that's fine. You can type those in. We'll probably answer those by email to you because just a lack of time here, because I've got a lot of questions. Nada says, what were your greatest challenges and how did you overcome them?
I think for me, what I kind of touched on already, which is because I didn't have the college education, that was a real obstacle that I had to get past. And it was just my own insecurities. But once I was able to go in and start doing practice analysis, and, again, you guys will learn this, but, ABS is there to help you. I mean, there were many a times where they would call into a meeting I had and act as my support, while I was in the meeting with the provider. So, I mean, I would say for me, that was my biggest obstacle, was just feeling comfortable in my own skin to go in and be able to speak independently to a physician and feel confident.
Yes, I think everybody, well, anybody who doesn't have any kind of background, of course, in the medical field or the medical billing specifically, is going to feel that way, right? It's like any new thing that you start. But folks, that's what our live training workshop's all about. You got 40 intense hours of really learning everything you need to know to get your business up and running, like Tierni said. Now, that doesn't mean you're not constantly learning, because this industry has a lot of new stuff that comes down the pike. That's why you have access to our licensee website, a private website that you have access to that continually educates you and answers your questions. Kent says, of the providers that you have, how many are on iClaim? I guess all of them are, if you're doing billing for them, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it was referring maybe to some of the ancillary services. Do you have any that are on using any of the other services that we have?
I don't.
I could see you were hesitating there, but that's okay. A lot of people just focus on the billing. That's where the money is anyway, right?
Yeah.
Ken also says, at this point, it sounds like you're so established that the doctors are calling you. True?
Yeah. Once you get to a certain point, like I said, I live in a small community, so for me, there's a lot of communication that goes on with, the providers and their colleagues. And yes, you get to a point where people are calling you.
Yeah. Shirley, you asked a question about, do you have to show them material? I'm not sure exactly what you're referring to there. Maybe it was something we said earlier. You might clarify that if you can. Antonio says, what do you consider was your biggest hurdle in getting your first client? I guess you just mentioned that, basically, just your own insecurity, huh?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I would say that.
Yeah. Let's see. Kent says, is switching over providers to iClaim a tough and tedious process? It can be, can it? Depends on the doctor.
Yeah, it just depends on the provider, but I would say for the most part, no. I mean, you pick a date of service or an entry date cutoff is your target point, and new claims go into the system, and the old ones stay in the old one and are worked by either you can contract that out, or maybe someone else they have on their staff. So no, it's not a big deal.
Yeah. This is a question from Antoinette, similar to what you asked earlier. I think, how many accounts were worked per day when it was you plus one? Well, folks, I think when we talked about the time it takes to do a claim should kind of give you a feel for that. If a doctor only has, say, 20 patients a day coming in, you should be able to handle several doctors per day, right, Tierni?
Yeah, because like I said, I mean, your processing time for a claim is anywhere, say, from 30 to 30 seconds to 60 seconds. So if your average PC or primary care physician is seeing 25 patients a day, then you're working 25 minutes to process those claims.
Right. So, just do the math on that. It depends on how many. And folks, there's an income calculator on our website. That's in the bottom left-hand corner of these slides. Go there, look for how much can you make, and do the calculations yourself there to kind of get a feel for that. That'd be a better way to answer that probably. Let's see. Okay, Tierni, I'm gonna let you go here in just a few minutes. I told you I'll let you go 10 till. Is that okay?
Oh yeah, no, I'm fine.
Okay. Jay says, what would you say the dollar amount to be per claim submitted on an average?
It depends on the specialty. I mean, your primary care providers, you're looking at probably, there's a difference between charge and collection amount. Average charge going out is probably $100 to $200 for a primary care, but your surgeons, I mean, we submitted $10,000 claims. So, I mean, it just really depends on what the specialty is.
Yeah, that's right. It all depends on the specialty because, again, a general surgeon like Dr. Rackner that I work with, she said that some of her bills were, $10,000, $15,000. But, a chiropractor, the bill might be, $75 or less for a visit.
Sure.
Let's see. Shirley was talking about the material that you would show to the doctor. She's talking about marketing materials. What would you show the doctors to get them to give you their business? Well, Shirley, we have a whole list of those items on our website, and we talk about the book earlier. That's one of the main marketing tools that you'll have is these books that have your name on the front cover. Yeah, you get a big supply of those with your purchase of the license, and then you can reorder those books, I think, for like $4. That's our printing price on the book. It sells for $24.95 out there on Amazon. Okay, Antoinette wants to know, do you work old accounts receivables? I guess bills that when you first signed up the doctor, they owed that they hadn't been collected. Is that something
Like
you work on, the old
claims?
Yeah.
I have, yes. I've taken on clients where I've only worked. I had a client come to me, gosh, it's probably been 5 years ago. He was a general surgeon. He had been in practice for like 25 years. Him and his biller had it out. She left him. He had a ton of claims that were in his system. I think there was like $300,000 worth of claims sitting in the account that needed to be processed. And he wanted to retire, and he wanted the money. So I knew I wasn't going to get future business from him because he was retiring. But yes, I took on the account. I charged him double or maybe even triple my normal percentage. I can't remember now because it's been a while. But I probably charged them 15 to 20% to work the old claims because old claims are a lot harder to work. So you definitely want to make sure that you increase your percentage if you're going to do that. And yeah, we took on his account and finished out the claims and parted ways. And he's actually given me probably 3 clients since then.
Wow. Well, that was well worth it, and you made money doing it. It all goes back to your time. What's your time worth, and how much you're going to make for per hour doing that kind of work. Well, one last question, Tierni. Is that okay?
Yeah.
All right. Antonio wants to know, who do you consider is your main competition?
Oh, I'm not trying to be arrogant, but I don't really feel like I have competition. Um, there's so many different there's so many different billers and billing companies all over, and I mean, honestly, I just feel like if you provide somebody with the best service that you can give them, they know they're taken care of and they see the results from it. I mean, there's not a lot of companies that are willing to bend over backwards to do that. And if you're willing to do that, then you won't feel like you have competition either because everyone's going to come to you.
Yeah, that's right. And no, you're not being arrogant. We teach people, look, you are going to have something that's very unique. You can do things that no other medical billing company can do out there in your area. So no need to be shy about that. Well, Tierney, thank you so much for your time. This has been a great interview. I appreciate you answering people's questions live like this and kind of put you on the spot, I know, but you are a fantastic business person, and I'm so proud of you.
Oh, well, thank you. And I was going to give one little last kind of tidbit to everybody just to kind of help them. And that is when you're going through this process, you guys hear my story, which, some of you might look at and think, oh, that's, awesome. I want to do that. When you start out, I didn't know that I was 10 years later going to have 87 providers and 12, full-time employees. You can't see that or predict what's going to happen. So you just have to take one step at a time, stay focused, work your business, and the success will come. I think the biggest issue that people run into is they hit an obstacle and then they stop and they complain that it didn't work. Well, you're going to hit obstacles no matter what you do in life. So when you hit an obstacle, and you will, because that's how life is, you just have to figure out how to get around it, and you guys will have success.
That's a great tip, Tierney. Thank you so much for sharing that. And hey, you let us know if there's anything we can do for you. Your iPad will be on the way tomorrow as a congratulations for being in business with us for 10 years. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Patrick.